Premier League season is just around the corner, so I'm going to let you know my predictions for the 2024-25 season. In 20th place, I have Southampton, who obviously had a very good campaign last year. However, looking at their squad, I'm not sure who's going to score the goals for them. Obviously, Adam Armstrong had an unbelievable season last season, scoring 25-ish goals. However, he's played about 50-ish games in the Premier League, only scoring 5 goals. Not a very proven Premier League striker, and they've not brought anyone in who is proven. However, the signing of Harwood Bellis, a key player for them last season, is a very good signing. He's had 2 back-to-back promotions from the Championship to the Premier League, so even if they do go down, he's a great player to help them get back up. In 19th, I have Brentford. After last season not doing very well, coming in just outside the relegation zone, they had to strengthen. However, Tony, there's a lot of interest around him from a lot of big clubs, and if he leaves, I'm not sure where their goals are really coming from. Obviously, Mbeumo and Vissa did quite well, however, they were still quite low down. And they've signed Ivor Thiago. However, he's torn his meniscus and he'll be out till late December. And they've not really improved in any other areas, in any ways that can really get them up the table. In 18th, and just missing out on survival, is going to be Ipswich Town, who have made some very, very good signings this season. However, it does look like it's a bit more of a project, and that they are creating an unstoppable Championship squad that will go straight back up if they do get relegated. There are also quite a few question marks regarding Kieran McKenna, whether after his 2 unbelievable seasons he might not stay at Ipswich Town. And unfortunately that means in 17th and surviving in the Premier League for at least one more season is going to be Nottingham Forest. I just feel they've not made many signings to improve. There's not really been anything that's going to change the squad very much, but they have too many of their good players that they've also not lost, like Callum Hudson-Odoi and Morgan Gibbs-White, that I just can't see them being in that bottom 3. And that means, maybe surprisingly, in 16th I have Leicester City. Yes, they have lost probably their best player in Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, who went to Chelsea for around 30 million. But I feel like potential point deduction that he could get is just going to encourage them more. And I feel like it could, in the end, help them, as they know they've got to work harder and pick up a lot of points, or a lot more points than the 3-4 teams below them. And in 15th place, I've chosen Fulham, who I don't think are going to have a great season with the loss of João Palhinha to Bayern and Tosin Adarabioyo to Chelsea. Yes, they've signed Emil Smith-Rowe, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to do enough to cover the damage of the loss of Palhinha, who has been class the last 2 years. In 14th place, I have gone with Everton, which could be seen as quite low. However, they've lost Amadou Onana to Aston Villa, who's probably their best player last season, and there's not really a very obvious replacement for him. However, the signing of Iliman Ndiaye, I'm quite excited to buy. I think he's a very good striker, as he proved himself for Sheffield United, and I think they'll be comfortably safe, however, not really challenging for anything this season. I think Wolves are going to come in at 13th place, have a pretty similar season to last season. None of their signings are stand out for me that are going to change the squad too much. The signing of Thomas Doyle being permanent, as he was on loan there last season, I think it's pretty good. He was decent for them last season. And then they've also loaned in Jacob Strand-Larsen, who's a good striker. He's on loan from Celta Vigo. However, I don't think it's going to be anything too exciting for Wolves fans, just another safe season in the Premier League. Bournemouth in 12th, there's not really too much to say. It's going to be a pretty similar season. They've got Dominic Solanke up top. If they can keep him, they should comfortably survive in this league. None of their signings really stand out to me. You've got Dean Huijsen, who could be good. I don't know actually how good he is, but maybe he can strengthen the defence, but I don't think it's going to be too different to last season. 11th place with Brighton, another solid season from them. Looking at their signings, they don't seem too impactful on the starting 11. A lot of them seem to be young players who maybe for the future. So I feel like it's going to be a very similar starting 11 to last season, and that's why I can't see them moving about too much in the table. So I've gone with 11th, the same as what they got last season. I'm sure they'd be pretty happy with that. Another comfortable season in the Premier League. In 10th place, I've gone for Crystal Palace. Obviously, an absolutely unbelievable end of the season under Glasner. However, they have lost Michael Olise, who was one of their better players. Mateta seems to be keeping his form up in the Olympics, and if Eze can stay as well as Anderson, they seem to have a pretty good squad going into this season. In 9th spot, I've gone with Newcastle United. Not too much of a reason, just I think the teams that I've put above them might be a few rogue shouts. And so, in my opinion, I don't think they're going to be as high as they were, but still not a bad season. In number 8, and probably the most surprising one of the videos so far, Man United. I just don't see their team looking as strong as the others above them. Yes, they've got some great players. Kobbie Mainoo still going to be there next season. Xerxes to come in. But I'm not sure if they can challenge really for the top end of the table with the current crop of players that they've got. I guess we'll wait and see to see if they do any more business. But as of now, I have Man United in 8th place. And in 7th place, I have gone Aston Villa, dropping down 3 places from the Champions League football spot they earned last season. This is mainly due to the loss of Douglas Luiz, who was unbelievable for them last season. Scored a lot of goals, got quite a few assists. And yes, they brought in Amadou Onana to replace him, but Onana plays very differently to him. He plays a lot more defensive. Douglas Luiz likes to attack. Onana not really as much for Everton. They've also lost Moussa Diaby, who obviously they have still got Watkins, who scores a lot of goals and gets a lot of assists, but Moussa Diaby does too, and they've not really replaced him. And I think that could cause them to drop a few more points in games that maybe they would have picked up if they had kept to maybe Douglas Luiz, and that's why I have Aston Villa in 7th place and back down to Conference League football. And in 6th, and I can tell this one is going to cause a lot of people to get angry, but I've gone with West Ham United. Looking at their business, I'm so excited by it. Bringing in Somerville from Leeds, who was probably the best player in the Championship last season. Füllkrug from Dortmund. He is an absolutely unbelievable striker, and I'm sure he's going to get so many goals in the Premier League. And then they've also brought in Max Kilman from Wolves, another good centre-back. I just feel like they've strengthened in the areas that they really needed to. So you've got a front 3 of Somerville, Bowen and Füllkrug. I feel like that can score so many goals for West Ham, where they'll pick up points, potentially against the big clubs, where they just have that edge against them. And I just feel like West Ham will be a real underdog this season and will end up getting European football. In 5th place, Chelsea. I feel like they're going to do quite well. They've got a very good squad now, and they started playing really nice football towards the end of the season. Cole Palmer had an unbelievable season, and they started to pick up a lot of wins. Obviously, they sacked Poch, which confusing why, but still, they were still playing good football anyway. I feel like their business, obviously it's Chelsea, they've probably brought in about 30 new players. They have about a huge squad, so squad depth isn't really a problem. They can keep going the whole season. Injuries, yes, an injury to one of their big star players is going to be quite bad, but they can cover most injuries in most positions, and that's why I think they'll end up in 5th. And now we get to the business end of the table, the Champions League spots. And in the first Champions League spot, I have Tottenham Hotspur, who I am really looking forward to seeing this season. Obviously, James Maddison should be back, definitely, and hopefully back to his best. You've got Heung-min Son, who's just an unbelievable player. Kulusevski's looked decent in pre-season. And then also their signings, Archie Gray, who for his age was unbelievable for Leeds last season, and he's hopefully going to have a good season and prove himself on the big stage. They've also signed Bergvall, who I'm not sure how good he is, but looking at his stats, he's looked like a very good passer of the ball, very accurate with his passes, and maybe he'll help for the squad depth. I doubt he'll be a starter, but should be able to do some stuff when called upon. And I think that their signings and just their overall squad should be good enough to get into the Champions League spots. In third place, yet again, I have gone with Liverpool. I think business-wise, it's been a little underwhelming. Obviously, yes, I know there's been linked with Zubimendi recently, who I think is going to be an unbelievable signing if they can get him. But overall, I just don't see how they can do better than the top two teams, obviously Man City and Arsenal. I'm not sure how their squad can beat those teams on points. I just feel like those two squads are just a little too strong now. Obviously, they could make a couple signings before the window ends, and I could be completely wrong, and I could change my prediction. And going into the final two places, unfortunately in second I've gone with Arsenal, and that means in first I've gone with Man City. But first with Arsenal, I feel like their squad should not drop any places this season. They've got basically the exact same squad apart from strengthened in a couple areas with Calafiori coming in. I'm not sure why, because they already had the best defence and didn't really need that. But I feel like they need to go for a striker, and if they can get a number 9 who's going to get loads and loads of goals for them, I wonder why they can't challenge for the title and they can't win it. Obviously, I expect them to challenge for it, but why can't they win it? If they get a number 9, why can't they do it and beat Man City for the first time in a while, which I'm sure everyone would hope could happen? And that means in first place, I've gone with Manchester City. They've just barely done any business because they don't need to. They've only brought in Savio, who's just a good player, and I'm sure he's going to do some stuff for them, but he's not going to start for them, obviously. Can't see how Arsenal can beat that unless they bring in maybe 1 or 2 more great signings. And so that brings me to the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Please like if you enjoyed and comment down below your predictions and your opinions on mine. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of you who do not agree with me, but feel free to share your opinions down below.